The rain won't go away. The storm hit LA overnight.
It's been pouring on and off all day. See It Live starts now.
The effects of the rain have been felt everywhere, from the traffic on land to the highways at sea. Good evening, I'm JP DeBoo.
And I'm Charlotte Scott. We take you live now to the Western Avenue overpass off the 10 freeway, where our reporter Ali Duclo has more on the traffic troubles.
Thanks, Charlotte and JP. We're here on the Western overpass over the 10 freeway, and if you pan over here with me, you can see traffic is a little backed up here on the freeway, and the road is a little slick from this unusual rain we've been getting. Now, the California Highway Patrol is urging drivers to be extra cautious in this weather. They've been tweeting updates on road closures all day, so you definitely want to keep an eye out for that. Now, our reporters Laurie Maimura and Joa Lin actually got the chance to speak with the California Highway Patrol earlier today to get some tips on driving in these conditions. Take a look.
This morning's heavy rainfall caused major accidents and traffic delays for the whole LA area. At least 3 big rig crashes forced closures on 3 different major freeways.
Once it rains in LA area, people kind of like forget how to drive a little bit. It's very important to stay aware of like your surroundings.
While many joke that Angelenos don't know how to drive in the rain, a study by the Federal Highway Administration shows that 24% of all crashes are weather-related. Over 1.5 million weather-related crashes occur each year. Most weather-related crashes happen during rainfall and on wet pavement. The California Highway Patrol says people need to drive differently in the rain.
Since we picked up the rain this morning, obviously it's pretty much the first rain of the season, and people are still trying to adjust to driving in the wet weather. So there's been a few incidents on the freeway that has caused a little bit of a backup.
Early this morning, heavy rain fell, but Los Angeles is not a city that rains often. In this special weather condition, CHP officer Kevin Tao advised helpful tips to drivers.
Anytime you're operating your windshield wiper, you gotta make sure that you are driving with your headlights on.
Officer Tao also says drivers should not use cell phones or be distracted. Some students understand the dangers of wet pavement.
I mean, there are some people who are really silly when they drive. They act like there's no rain, and I don't know, it's really dangerous. I try to drive slower because I know that, it's rain, you're not gonna, it's not safe.
Another tip when driving in the rain, try to look 5 to 10 cars ahead of you so you're ready to react. For Annenberg Media, I'm Laurie Maimura.
Again, just a reminder, folks, to stay safe out there on these roads. This is Ali Duclo reporting on the Western overpass over the 10 freeway, and I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Ali. The Malibu community has been through a lot recently. Just weeks after the Woolsey fire, Malibu is now dealing with mudslides. Residents in the Malibu Park area near Horizon and Bush Drives are being urged to evacuate. In other burn areas, sandbags are lined along canyon roads and in driveways to help prevent damage from mudslides. But residents are prepared to leave if necessary.
I haven't seen anything yet. A few rocks. I know Corral Canyon had some rocks, but nothing major yet. So I don't know, with the next downpour, who knows? My concern is driving over the hill, which we do. We go either Canaan or Malibu Canyon, so I'm a little nervous about that. So if it's raining, I'm not going to go. I'll just stay put.
With rain predicted to continue throughout the night, officials are telling residents to watch for evacuation orders. LAFD released a list of flood prevention and storm preparedness tips. Homeowners should secure trash cans and check windows for leaks, have an emergency supply kit ready, and store important documents in case of evacuation. Drainage pipes should be free of debris. If evacuated, know routes to safe zones and monitor the news. Water levels in pools should be lowered to prevent overflow. Check insurance for flood and storm coverage and keep cars fueled in case power is cut off. And be sure to communicate with friends and family.
Pepperdine University canceled classes and closed offices at its Malibu campus today because of the rain and road conditions. A statement on the university's website also advised faculty and staff not to report to work today. With finals coming up, students are concerned about how much school they have missed, but are also preparing in case of evacuation.
Well, I was happy because I had 3 classes today, but I woke up and it was actually sunny outside, so it was kind of like we could have had class, but we didn't. So I actually did pack a bag, and I did just because when the fire happened, I didn't have a bag for that, and I wasn't really prepared at all, so I was like, I may as well get prepared for this one.
I personally was not that worried until I drove out of campus today and saw how close the fires came, like right on our hills as we were driving, and I realized it was probably a big possibility. I've been pretty worried about my finals because I haven't had class for the past 3 weeks, and now I don't have class today, and I'm missing, like, we're already cramming so much stuff into like a short amount of days, so a little worried.
University officials will evaluate weather and road conditions tomorrow morning and make a decision on whether classes will resume. Today's heavy rains aren't just affecting land conditions. Our reporter Susie Placencia headed over to the beach today to talk to surfers about how the rain has affected the waves. Susie?
Thanks, Charlotte. Today's storm brought high surf to local beaches, but heavy rains didn't stop Malibu surfers from heading out in hopes of catching some waves. While the beaches are less crowded than usual, many experienced surfers are taking extra precautions to avoid bacterial infections that can be caused by rainstorm runoff, made even worse by the recent fires.
With only a few people in the water, it's really hard to resist. It's a very rare occurrence to have few people in the water here in Malibu. Rain does get all the pollutants from the mountains, and it washes into the ocean. So we're advised not to surf within 72 hours after a heavy rainstorm. Staph is a common problem that happens if you get even a minor cut, any opening in the body, the bacteria, and it can spread rapidly. The surf report said there's supposed to be waves, so we're just waiting out the wind to die down to see if there are waves come in, but also checking on the conditions because it does look a little murky in the water.
For more on how much rain we're getting and what we can expect over the next few days, let's go to our weather anchor, Sherry Williams. Sherry, how much rain are we going to be getting?
I am prepared with my weather jacket, my rain jacket, because we are expecting plenty more rain. But first, let's start on today. Right now, it is 55 degrees, and it is light rain. Earlier, it was sunshine along with that rain, but foggy, and really the clouds were gray. But take a look across Southern California. Tomorrow, we are expecting here San Bernardino, 46 degrees, and Big Bear even cooler, 25 degrees. Now, for the Valley, it's also really low weather here, 42 degrees in Thousand Oaks, and then 46 degrees as we make our way in Simi Valley. It is pretty consistent even here in the LA area, all in the 40s, Glendale 48 degrees, and right here on campus a little bit higher, 52 degrees. Now let's take a look at our 5-day forecast. It's all in the 40s, but first, today it's been in the 30s, so 38 degrees. And when we make it our way towards Monday, it rises just a little bit. Sunday being 67 degrees with a chance of rain, and also Monday 56 degrees. But you want to be careful Friday. Bring that umbrella because it is a 90% chance of rain.
Last year, many Montecito residents lost their homes to fires and mudslides. One woman who evacuated her home helped her friend whose house was destroyed by the mudslides. It was last January that heavy rains caused serious mudslides. 21 people were killed and more than 100 homes destroyed. Paige Beard described what it was like to help her friend Curtis skiing after mud, trees, and rocks flooded into his home.
The devastation was so... You can't explain it, and pictures don't do it justice. So Curtis was in his house, at what it was like 3:30 in the morning, and he looks out his bedroom window, and his car floated by. An 8-foot, round tree comes in his front door, and the mud just starts coming in, like 6 feet of mud. So he doesn't know what he's going to do. Somehow he got outside, and he just prayed, and within the 25 feet around where he was, the mud went around. He sat there for 3.5 hours, 4 hours, and then he heard the helicopters. Then his neighbor came over about an hour later. So he sat there, it's raining, cold, and his neighbor somehow got over, and he was able to he's a beekeeper, and use these boxes to put on top of the mud to get over to his neighbor. His neighbor gave him some sweatpants, and they proceeded to try and help people on their lane, which was East Valley Lane. So it's just, it's really, everyone had been evacuated so much for the fires that, they didn't really think about the mudslides because they, the town was so up in arms anyway. So that was pretty scary. There was so much devastation, and for such a small community, but everybody really came together to help.
The deadliest California mudslide occurred in Los Angeles between February and March of 1938, where 115 people died. The second worst mudslide was in 1969 in Southern California after heavy rainfall, and 91 people died. And finally, the Crescentia Valley mudslides in 1934 took the lives of 45 people, 24 more deaths than the Montecito mudslides earlier this year.
But how will Southern California's recent fires affect the severity of potential mudslides? And can we expect to see more of them in the future? We talked with USC science professor Steve Lund to find out.
But the fact that you've denuded the landscape is going to make this rainfall easier to transport soot and soft sediment from the surface that's related to the fires to the ocean. I'm not sure you're going to see any more fires than might have occurred decades ago, but the intensity may be more because of drier conditions, and certainly these winds that occur seasonally exacerbate the fire conditions in ways that I don't think anybody could have predicted. Stronger winds must be related to changing climate.
Flash floods and mudslide alerts are transmitted based on the National Weather Service systems and decided by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the U.S. Geological Survey. Alerts are being transmitted in person by door-to-door, knocking, over loudspeakers, and through public sirens. Federal emergency alerts interrupt radio and TV broadcasts. State and federal agencies also send alerts via phone calls, texts, and social media. The LA Fire Department uses a Twitter account just for public alerts.
We spoke with DPS Assistant Chief David Carlisle about the department's procedures on campus when it rains.
There are a few changes with DPS when it rains, particularly if the rain is accompanied by wind. It's a fact, and all law enforcement knows this, that even the criminals like to stay indoors when it rains. So actually crime goes down, but other types of calls for service go up. And here at USC, it seems every time there's a heavy rain, there's a flood in one of the buildings. It's just the engineering of some of the older buildings. It doesn't direct the water away, so we direct our officers to specifically check their portions of campus that they're responsible for and look for signs of flooding.
Thanks for watching See It Live. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Charlotte Scott.
And I'm JP DeBoo. Well, this is our last show of the semester, Charlotte. I just wanted to say I've had a great time anchoring by your side throughout the stories you've told.
Me too. You're more than just a co-anchor, you're a friend, and I'm so thankful we had this experience together.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Well, you can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com. Good night.